Credibility, the chief cornerstone of this trial. We watched Daisy Link divulge a raw account of domestic violence.
And he hit me once with it, but me and David began to wrestle the gun off of him.
Then the jury ruled that she was guilty of murder, with one even citing that the evidence was clear.
I just really looked at the facts of what happened that day, and I mean, the only thing you could come up with was guilty in our situation.
So what exactly happened? I have covered this trial gavel to gavel in our recaps, and I've said in our closing catch-up that the jury has got this one completely spot on, and I'm going to expand on this further in this video, where we are going to review the key moments that had shaped this verdict. Hi, I go by the name of Hines, your friendly neighborhood ketchup man, and welcome to Ketchup Court, where we are on a mission to make trials digestible for you. As with all my recaps, you can find the daily reports of the trial, where we highlight key moments from the trial and provide a timeline of events. The links are in the description. The Daisy Link trial was an emotional one. In fact, it was a trial that consisted of the hallmarks of a toxic relationship, including instances of domestic violence. Many people had split opinions in regards to this particular verdict, but what was at issue in this trial was that it was about the murder of Pedro Jimenez and whether Daisy had justification to take his life. The jury instructions were clear and given by the judge on what the jury should consider.
If the defendant was not committing any crime other than the alleged second-degree murder or any lesser included crime for which the defendant is claiming self-defense or defense of others, and if she was in a place where she had a right to be, then the defendant had no duty to retreat before using deadly force. On the other hand, if at the time the defendant used deadly force, she was committing second-degree murder or manslaughter, or if at the time the defendant used deadly force, she was not in a place where she had a right to be, the defendant had a duty to retreat. The duty to retreat means the defendant had the legal obligation to use every reasonable means to avoid danger before using deadly force. The law does not require the defendant to retreat if she was placed in imminent danger of great bodily harm or if she was placed in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, of imminent danger of the commission of burglary and or false imprisonment against herself and or others, and it would have increased her own danger to retreat, or if retreat, it would have been futile. But if the defendant had a duty to retreat and she could have safely retreated, but did not do so, then her use of deadly force was not justifiable.
Now let's start from the beginning. Let's bring in the evidence that was testified to by a lot of the technical witnesses that the jury had to consider, which was the medical evidence of Pedro's autopsy, as well as the crime scene technicians.
Wounds were what their size is.
And how did the bullet first enter the body?
How did the bullet first enter the body? So he has an entrance wound on the left foot. That's coming out the back of the left heel region, and he has an entrance wound on the right thigh in the back that's coming out the front of the right thigh.
At green pickup, where I saw a lot of the blood, then the trail goes on this grassy area along the west side, following this other vehicle where I told you I saw blood, and then this is the entrance to the alleyway. So following this, all the way to under these trees here, that's where the body was. And where is it that you observed these blood trails?
The blood trail appeared to have started from directly in front of the residence.
So it started here and it went all the way here, and then the cars and the alleyways here. That's correct. Thank you.
Now that we know all of that, let's dive into the events that took place before the murder had occurred. On the 19th of June 2022, 5 days before the murder, Daisy gave her account of the pistol whipping incident that she had experienced. This was the first instance of domestic violence that we got to hear about in this trial, and this is a good time to give a reminder that this is a murder trial and not a domestic violence trial. We can only go as far back as to what the evidence can point to regarding Daisy's state of mind. We are about to hear more testimony about how Pedro was not allowed to see his kids due to the violence that he had with Daisy, and of course the substance abuse as well. We heard testimony about that. So this is not the only instance of domestic violence. There was more. However, I'm guessing because of the context of the trial, because this is a murder trial, they can only go as far back as this to establish her state of mind as is relevant to the self-defense that she is claiming due to her state of mind. Anyways, enough about that. Let's go into this gruesome incident where unfortunately Daisy Link was a victim of domestic violence. Daisy describes that on this day, on the 19th of June, she was with her kids as well as with her cousin David and his kids, and they were just having fun, doing what normal families do, watching TV, doing all of those things. And at around 9 or 10 p.m, Daisy and David were sitting in the kitchen, enjoying a beverage, again just having fun and doing what normal families would do, relate with each other, have fun, whatever. Then a knock on the door could be heard, and Daisy describes this knock as a police knocking on the door. Then she goes to open the door. Surprise to her, unexpectedly, it was Pedro.
There was just a glare from me to David, back to me, and from there, he pulled out a gun.
Pulled out a gun?
Yeah.
Pedro pulled out a gun, and what did he do after he pulled out the gun?
Initially, he charged at me with the gun, and he hit me once with it, but me and David began to wrestle the gun off of him.
Were you able to take the gun from him?
I did.
Right.
I did.
When you took it from him, what happened?
From there, I pointed it at him, and I guess our fingers were kind of intertwined.
What, if anything, did Pedro do once he got the gun back from you?
He pointed it at me, so I ran towards the front door, and I heard a bullet. Well, I heard it dislodge. I ran out the door. There's steps to go up, so I fell and I hit the ground. I fell outside. He jumped over the ledge, and he pinned my arms down with his legs, and he began to bludgeon me with the pistol, with the metal end of the pistol. I remember just getting hit over and over again, and I tried to fight, but he was just too big for me. After that, I just hear my son screaming, and that's when it stopped.
After the ordeal, Daisy took pictures, assuming that it was with the help of David to document this whole ordeal, likely for the police, whom she said that she had spoke to about this particular incident, and then she had sent it to her sister, Crystal. Crystal Barreto also gave an account corroborating this incident, as she testified to receiving the pictures from Daisy through text messages, describing it as a open gash in her head covered in blood and in her hair.
When she sent me the pictures, I offered to take her to the hospital, and I went in person to her home to get her children so that she would be able to go to the hospital and get treated for her injuries.
The next day, on the 20th, Crystal then traveled to go and see Daisy. We don't know exactly what time she started the travel, but she traveled to go and see Daisy. She was urging her to go to the hospital. Initially, Daisy had declined or was not really up for going to the hospital, but she ended up doing it anyway. Although it wasn't exactly established whether Crystal had sent the pictures to the mother on the same day when she received it, which would be the 19th, or she sent it on the 20th when she was with Daisy herself. Nonetheless, it was still established that the pictures were sent to her mother and Leland, as Josefina Perez testified to seeing pictures of Daisy with her head bashed in and covered in blood. She testified also that the initial plan was to go and get Daisy on the 4th of July.
I was supposed to come instead in like around July the 4th. And once we had all the stuff packed and the children would already be out of school, that she was going to leave with us, and Mr. Jimenez wasn't going to know about that. It was just going to be on a random date, and he wouldn't have known.
Lelaine Gonzalez, who was Daisy's niece, also provided an account about what happened on this particular day, and she said that before they had traveled, she had received a message from Daisy where she had sent pictures of her head bloody and she looked injured. This was likely shown to her by her grandmother after she had received the message from Christina Barreto. Again, the time is not certain. I don't know if this is the 19th or the 20th, but around this time, this is when the pictures were being circulated with the family members. She also gave an explanation as to why her and her grandmother decided to go to Florida on the 24th, and this was because they had decided to help Daisy leave with the kids. Viviana Perez also corroborated this particular account. Daisy also gave an account of what she did this particular day, and she said that she went to the hospital after being advised to do so by Crystal, who had came from Miami to come and check up on her. And so she did go to the hospital, as she testified to. The next day, on the 21st, on this day, Daisy gave her account about speaking with the police about the incidents that had just occurred with Pedro.
And can you tell us or explain to us why you wouldn't have just called the police as soon as he did that to you?
I couldn't. That's one, he would have gotten deported. Two, he wasn't allowed to be with the kids at all by himself, or when his mom wasn't around. I would have gotten the kids taken away.
So she lied to the police in that instance and didn't report the incident to them because she didn't want Pedro to get in trouble with them and lose the custody of his kids, considering that he had lost his parental rights due to substance abuse and previous acts of domestic violence. She gave an account on the 22nd where she says that Pedro had came to apologize to her for what had transpired on the 19th, saying that he only did what he did because he saw her with a random guy in the house and immediately assumed that she was cheating on him. Daisy allowed Pedro to stay with her that night, saying that he had spent the night sleeping on the bunk bed. On the 23rd, the next day after this, Daisy testifies that Pedro took her to Dave and Buster's and they had a good time and they ended up having sex that particular day. This is what we must remember when we're looking at this trial. Pedro is not actually here to give an account of what happened that particular day, what happened when they were having this conversation, or what happened when he was giving this apology. He's dead. He is a victim. He is dead, and yeah, the abuser is the victim in this trial. So therefore, why would a jury with all this background believe that Daisy could not be justified in her actions that night against Pedro Jimenez? Why would they not believe that he was going to harm her? To better understand this, we need to go into the events that occurred that day of the murder. So the murder happened on the 25th of June and during the early hours. So on the 24th, there's a lot of context to consider. Therefore, we have to go into the early accounts of what happened before this particular murder had occurred, because we heard testimony from Lelaine Gonzalez, who gave an account of what supposedly happened this particular day and what her and her grandmother were doing when they had arrived on this day. She gave testimony that the locks had changed when they arrived at the residence. This is of course corroborated by Daisy, who testified earlier that she had changed the locks due to an incident with Pedro. And this provided a lot more context, because why would she give Pedro the new key when she had changed the locks? So of course, the family also does not have a new key. Again, she did all of this to keep him out. Josefina Perez also gave testimony about this day, saying that she arrived with her daughter Crystal Barreto, who had dropped her off around 1 p.m. and that's where she had seen Pedro and basically spoke with him about seeing the violence that he had inflicted on Daisy through the pictures that was sent to them before they had made the trip.
I told him, why did you lie to me? You know, you're saying that Daisy's trying to hurt you and stuff, and what did you do? Why did you do that to her? You did that to her. She didn't do anything to you. Why did you do that? So he said, I haven't touched her since 2016.
I mean,
what
after
time?
that interaction, did you-
In like 30 minutes, 3 men came and they picked them up. He doesn't have a car.
We don't know exactly what time she left Daisy's after speaking with Pedro and seeing him drive off with a couple of friends in a white van 30 minutes later. We don't know what time she left after that to go to Gloria's house, but she did go to Gloria's house because she testified that she returned from Gloria's house at around 10 or 11 p.m.
around what time it was that you went to Gloria's house and when it was that you came back to Daisy's house?
I can't say exactly, maybe 10, 10:30, 11. Between 10:30, 11, we left from Gloria's house.
When was the next time that you saw Pedro after he left with those other men?
I saw him that night. I don't know the exact time, maybe 11 something, going to 12.
Keep this in mind. And that's when she went on to witness the 3 times that Pedro was abusive with Daisy. She is the only one that witnessed these events before the killing had occurred. Now let's shift back to Lelaine Gonzalez because she testified to leaving Daisy's house as well, but also returning.
Were you there up until 3 a.m. in the morning?
I was there up until 10 p.m.
What's on the first day when you left at 10 p.m.?
The first day, I did not stay there.
So then, on that day that you see him and he waves to you,
Yes.
he's there at the property. He's not inside the house, but he's there on the property, right?
The day he waves at me, I went to pick up my grandma. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Okay. So then, when are you saying that you saw him and he waves to you? At 1 or 2 in the morning or at 10 p.m.?
1 or 2 in the morning.
Okay. And he was outside
Yes.
where the kids were and he was visiting the kids.
That's a whole different day.
I thought you had said that when you waved to him, he was seeing the kids.
Oh, that was on the first day I came there. The night of the incident, he was in the back of Daisy's house.
At some point, did you go with Crystal to pick up your grandmother at Daisy's house?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when that happened?
I don't remember the date, but I remember the night.
Okay. Can you tell me what you observed when you arrived at Daisy's house, when you went to go pick up your grandmother?
I had got out of the car to go grab my grandma's purse. And as I was walking to grab her purse, I had seen Pedro towards the end of the building walking around, and he had seen me and he said hi to me.
Now, he said hi where you can hear it, or did he?
No, he had waved, like saying hi.
He waved.
Yeah.
Did you wave back?
Yes.
Only testimony that we have to know about the return to Daisy's house is that there was 2 returns. The first return was returning at 1 or 2 p.m. to go and pick up the mother, Josefina Perez, with Crystal Barreto. And then she never returned again to Daisy's house because she stayed at the house while Crystal and Josefina were the ones to go to Daisy's house to go and pick up the kids after the detectives had called them in the morning to go and pick up the kids, according to Josefina's testimony. So we can reasonably conclude that when Lelaine Gonzalez had arrived at around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I don't know exactly the time, but when she had arrived at that time, she did not leave with Josefina Gonzalez. She did not leave with Josefina Perez because she testified to staying at Daisy's until 10 p.m. So I'm assuming that she stayed at Daisy's until that particular time. So let's bring it all back and put it into context. We don't know whether Lelaine Gonzalez had left at 3 o'clock or 4, whenever the mother had left. We don't know if she had left with her, then returned to Daisy's house somehow later on. We don't know whether that happened. But we do know that she stays there until 10 p.m. Then she leaves with Crystal. Then she returns at 1:30 p.m. with Crystal. That's Lelaine Gonzalez's account of events. So based on Josefina Perez's testimony, Crystal was the one that brought her, and I'm assuming Lelaine Gonzalez as well, to the house at 1:30, then leaves.
Did you go to Daisy's house at some point to pick up your mother?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me about that, please?
She had called me. I don't remember exactly the time. I know it was like early morning hours, maybe 12 midnight, maybe 1 in the morning. I don't remember exactly the time. to come and pick her up. We went to pick her up, me, my ex-husband, and Laylene.
Laylene was with you also?
Yes, from the home. I stayed in the back. I didn't get out the car.
Then returns to the house to go and pick up Lelaine Gonzalez, I'm assuming.
Around what time it was that you went to Gloria's house and when it was that you came back to Daisy's house?
I can't say exactly, maybe 10, 10:30, 11. Between 10:30, 11, we left from Gloria's house.
So 11 o'clock when Josephina Perez supposedly arrived at the residence to 2 p.m. or 1:30, whenever what time it was. In that gap, there were 3 incidents that she testified to happening that particular time. So Pedro left the house probably at 2 or maybe 1:30, around that little cluster of time he had already left. So after this is when the mother also left with Crystal, etc. They left the house, and then after that Pedro returns and we have the shooting. We know what happened and why. Honestly, I had to cycle through Josefina's testimony, Daisy's testimony, as well as Lelaine Gonzalez's testimony. But this is where the issue kind of lies with me, because I'm making so many assumptions just to try and piece together their stories. I'm assuming that Crystal was the one that was driving Josefina to the house. I'm assuming also that Crystal was the one that was driving Lelaine when she was picked up at 10 p.m. There is a massive gray area whether Lelaine had left the house and returned back to Daisy's house to stay until 10 p.m. or whether she just stayed there the whole time. Anyways, the question that these interesting moments just elicit in my mind is, did these events actually happen the way that Josefina Perez is saying that it did? Because we know that our sisters did not see anything of this going down. Did it actually happen the way that Josefina Perez says it did? And also, did it happen the way that Daisy Link says it did? We already saw Lelaine's credibility of her account attacked on 2 occasions. The first occasion was where she was arguing that the pictures were sent to her that day. So that day must have been when the pictures were taken.
You don't know then if those photos were taken a month before then, do you?
No.
It's possible that they were created a month before then, right? Or even 2 months before. Is it possible?
No.
Well, how do you know that's not possible then if you weren't there when the photos itself were actually taken?
Because when you send a photo, there's a date when it's taken.
Yeah, but can't you go into your camera roll and send a photo from a month before and it says the date that it was sent to you?
Not when it's taken through an actual camera.
So, it's your testimony here today. You can't go into your camera roll on your phone and select a photo from a year ago and send it to someone.
You can, but it's going to have the date from a year ago?
The photo itself?
Yes.
And she wasn't really answering the question whether it could have been taken from another period and just sent to her that day. Of course, this presents doubt and the reliability of the evidence that was being presented by the defense, because it does open the door that it's possible that she could have been sending these pictures from a different time period to get them to come down. Now, stay with me. I'm going to expound more on this. We also saw Crystal Barreto's credibility be attacked as well because of her statements to Danny Morales, who basically said that if Pedro was dead, Daisy must have shot him.
Either of their reaction when you informed them what was going on?
So Crystal Barreto immediately, spontaneously stated the words, "If he is dead, Daisy must have shot him."
Right.
So is it that you don't remember or you didn't say it, Ms. Barreto?
Well, the question was, did I remember when he asked me? And I said, no, I don't remember.
No, the question was, did you make the statement? And you said you didn't. So my question is, did you not make the statement or is that you don't remember?
But I think you just read me the question and it said, do you remember saying that? And I said, I do not remember saying that.
Absolutely. So Ms. Barreto, I'm going to ask you again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that you did not make the statement for sure? Or is it that you don't remember making that statement?
I did not make the statement 100% for sure. Unless I was a psychic, then I would have made the statement. Okay. But I'm not a psychic.
Look, this is a really, really bad point for her to even make, because it's not like there was a dispute about whether Daisy had shot Pedro or not. I mean, we know from the DNA evidence that she had shot him. We also know that she disposed of the gun. We also know that she admits to shooting him just so that her self-defense argument can be viable. So why are you coming onto the stage and arguing that she didn't say that when it actually adds up that you would think that because of what happened the night before? I mean, if anything, it bolsters your story of what Josefina was saying happened that night, because guaranteed she would have divulged those events to Crystal. So why fight this? Why not say, yeah, because, yeah, I said that because Josefina told me that he was doing all this. So yeah, I'm like, yeah. But she denies it completely, which just tarnishes her credibility and even might make a jury member wonder, wait, does that mean that Josefina did not tell her what happened that night? It would make sense to anybody listening to this to just naturally assume that these guys talk with each other about the events that happened that night, that she would make that statement at that time. So if you're saying that you didn't make that statement, then you're leaving, in my opinion anyway, the jury with the impression that that statement just happened. You're leaving with the jury with the impression that you are worried that they might think that you're making this up now, when really and truly you're kind of confirming their worries, because they have no choice but to think that you guys spoke about what's going to happen and it looks bad from your standpoint, so you have to deny saying that. But end of the day, it corroborates why Josefina would tell you what happened that night, which is Daisy had shot him. Daisy and Pedro were going at it, and Daisy was trying to get rid of Pedro. That's the only thing that would make sense why she would elicit that testimony in the first place. Denying that just makes you look not credible. Then, at this moment, I realized why the jurors may have rejected all of their testimonies altogether.
How long after this last time that you saw him was it that you left?
Maybe 30 minutes. And I looked around, I didn't see him anywhere, so I told her, I'm gonna go home. I'm tired, and I discussed it with my other daughter. I said, I need a ride home. You know what? I don't want to be around this stuff. I told him to go, and hopefully he'll stay gone until the morning. We can figure out what's wrong.
Okay. And what was the plan for the following day?
We were supposed to have a barbecue since I had just arrived. And then we were going to plan, basically her escape without him knowing.
But earlier, she said the plan was to get out of this particular situation.
What happened that caused you to come down here from Texas back then?
I saw some photos of my daughter Daisy with her head bashed in, covered in blood. She had a giant scrape on her neck. She had a giant bruise on her arm. And
what were you looking to accomplish when you were coming down here?
I was supposed to be, what I was looking to accomplish when I arrived before my original date was to remove her and the children to safety immediately. We had already had plans to do that. I just had to, do it at an earlier date because of this.
And Lalaine also said this too.
We were coming down there so that way we can bring Daisy and her kids back to live with us.
So how on earth did this plan for a barbecue even come about? This was the moment that changed everything. And ladies and gentlemen, in my humble opinion, this is probably why the jury rejected her accounts completely of seeing violence by Pedro and then leaving after witnessing that particular violence, and then somehow return for the barbecue that they were going to have the very next day. That just does not compute. It just gives any reasonable person looking at this incident that there probably was no issue, and the plan was always to go and have a barbecue, because again, you have to wonder, why not just cancel the barbecue? And is he not going to come back? If he was coming back 3 times already, are you not worried that he was going to come back? Therefore, I accept that 2 things can be true at the same time. It is extremely possible that they went for the barbecue and planned for the barbecue and have that spontaneous plan when they were with her from the hours of 1 until whenever Josephina left. There is a high likelihood that they made that plan that day. I agree and I accept that. However, Josephina's credibility was attacked the minute she had made the statement that Pedro had smashed the window. There was a smashed window and Pedro had attempted to gain access.
About maybe 15, so many minutes later, I was with her sitting out front by the AC unit. That's the front door. So I turned my head around, and Mr. Jimenez stuck his arm in the door, in the window. There's a broken window that is punched out. And he unlocked the door and went inside, started knocking things over.
There is simply no corroborating testimony from anyone in this particular trial to corroborate that smash window allegation, because you have testimony from the crime scene technician and they did not bring in any evidence about there being a smash window, about them recording anything of the house being vandalized or damaged. And the crime scene technicians would document this because they're trying to find out and build a case for their detectives to figure out what essentially happened. They may look at the different parts of those damages and suggest there could be a robbery that went on or something that may have caused these injuries to happen this particular way. If that's the case, we would have seen those pictures. And I get it. Some people would look at this moment and be like, but the investigators, they lost the footage. So therefore, they probably lost the pictures from the crime scene technicians too. And you will be right. That is true. The investigators did lose the footage, and that's already been explained. So I'm not going to be going over that here. However, if they also lost the footage in regards to the crime scene technicians and they took those photos, and you know that Antonio Lomas has this knowledge, if that was the particular case, why didn't we see Antonio Lomas even ask the crime scene technicians any questions about there being a possible break-in, about if they had seen any break-in whatsoever, if they had seen any smash, anything like that? Why didn't the defense attorney ask these questions to get it into the record? But these 2 moments are what I believe, and why I believe that the jury just rejected any testimony of violence being there, because there was nothing to corroborate it. There was only a single ring camera footage, which some people have suggested that again the investigators lost those as well, which is fine. But regardless,
I thought you hit a major artery. You'll be fine.
the only logical conclusion that any juror or jury may come to all of this is Daisy lied to the police, the family lied to them, and more than likely that Daisy has shot Pedro not for self-defense reasons. Yes, Pedro was an abuser. This was established. We went through that. He was a horrible person. I am going to agree with you there 100%. However, this is one of those cases where you just may need to put your ethics to one side and look at the case for what it is. And the question that this trial posed from day one is, did Daisy cross the line or not? That is the overarching question in this trial, and that is what has to be answered. The domestic violence, unfortunately, would be secondary in this kind of scenario. Anyways, what did you make of this case? Did you follow the case from day 1 to day 6, or are you just finding out about this case and just tuning in for the first time? Am I misinformed? Am I a bumbling fool for even believing any of the things that I believe in here? Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are and where I am wrong in my full recap of this particular trial. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, you've got great taste. Sprinkle your DNA all over that like button if you found this video to be of value for you. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a tastemaker and joining our great community here on YouTube by hitting that join button. Also by supporting us on Patreon as well, or by giving a one-off donation. Whatever your heart content, the links are in the description below. If you have a taste for the law, you are already one of us. Make it official and join the tastemakers today. Now, this case was loaded with domestic violence, and there's another case in which we have covered with similar themes, but he was getting sentenced to death for the killing of his wife, who he has been abusing, and also had massacred her entire family. The links should be coming up on your screen. I go by the name of Hines, your friendly neighborhood ketchup man, and this has been The Ketchup.